The following is from a live presentation of Deliberate Success with Greg Pineo, brought to you by Reach Returns. In Deliberate Success, Greg covers the key characteristics for professional and personal success, no matter your chosen path. Greg guides you with the roadmap to envision and achieve your goals.
How many people here, just so I can have a visual, how many people here have seen me before? Before I handed you your wine. Good. That humbles me that on a evening, especially a beautiful evening in Seattle, you'd take some time to be with us. We really try to do things right at Reach Returns. So once again, a romantic setting, some good wine. My partners in Reach, a little hand for them, huh? There is no way that you would see me here or anywhere talking about real estate, life, passion, any of that, ever, without them. Wouldn't happen. Because the details of orchestration and expertise and business management and computers and on and on and on and on, I don't do that. Matter of fact, if you knew me, I really don't do that very well at all, especially computers. I need to set the stage also and tell you that it's always a little strange. As many times as I speak to different groups about all kinds of different things, it's always a little strange on an evening where I'm talking about principles of success. And if you know me, you know why that feels a little strange, because it feels a little pretentious to me. And being an old carpenter and a guy that was in a ditch at 2 o'clock this afternoon, shoveling concrete, it feels a little strange to be talking about principles of success as if I were some great special person. I'm normal. It's why we get along, isn't it? I'm just like you. And what I'm proud of, though, is that after 30 years of hanging out here, I've become a student of what has kept me in the arena. And as amazing as my muscles are, it isn't that I'm good on a shovel. That was a joke, by the way. I've become a student of what makes a successful person a successful person. It's almost by looking back, going, how in the hell have I survived all these years? What has worked? What hasn't worked? What are the principles that drive longevity and success? And it's always a little interesting to talk about that. So I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to just tell you what I know to be true. I'm going to tell you my own experiences. I'm going to, as Ray Floyd, the great golfer, said, swing with courage. I'm just going to tell you what I've observed over the years. One man's opinion, take everybody's opinion, and then do it your own way. Okay? Preface to tonight, we need to have a ground rule. It's a ground rule that is the driving principle of everything I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you 20 points tonight. You've heard of Letterman's top 10. Well, I have 20. But the driving principle, the one that starts it off, is this. And I'd like you to quietly, in your own way, in your own mind, I would like you to say it with me. Not out loud. We're not going to high-five your neighbor and tell him something. No, it's not going to happen. Not at my seminars. That doesn't happen. We're not going to give anybody back rubs or any. No. You might negotiate that for later. That's up to yourself. But okay. And by the way, there's a few of you guys out here that there's some pretty cute girls. You might want to work on that. But I need you to say this in your own way, in your own head. And we have to agree on this, and then we're going to start building. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Greg Pineo, you are responsible for your own life. Insert your name where I just put mine and say it to yourself quietly in your head. It's up to you. Somehow we live in an entitled generation that thinks that somebody out there owes them something. Get that out of your head. Nobody owes you anything. I'm sorry, I have to come. My daughter is right here in the second row, and boy, she looks at me like, boy, is that the truth? He sure taught me that. By the way, Amy's graduating next month from the University of Washington. On a scale of $1 to $10, how many dollars have I contributed to her education? I think it's about 6. Nobody paid for my college. It's up to you. You're responsible for your own life, your own actions. Education is great. Knowledge is great. All becomes useless unless you decide that you want to be in a different place, in a different space, and that you're going to go somewhere, right? So are we in agreement that you are responsible for your own actions? Is there anybody, because I would ask you to leave right now. No, I won't do that. I'm kidding. From there, where do we start? We're responsible for our own actions. Where we start is with visualization. We start by asking the question, what do we want? What do we want? What do we picture? Can we freeze it there for a minute? My wife, when she was 8 years old and started riding horses, visualized that someday, some way, somehow, she would own the equestrian center of all equestrian centers. She visualized it. When I say visualize it, bring in all the senses. She would smell the leather in the tack room. The smell of fresh shavings, horses, the sound that they make when they're quiet in the dark at night. It's amazing when you walk through that barn at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's a very surreal feeling. These were the things that when I asked her, what does she see? What does she visualize? It was all senses coming into play. And it came out of her like sweat on a hot day. I mean, it was just pouring from her. It wasn't just, what do I kind of want? It was, what do I want? And then you visualize it. And I asked her, paint me a picture. Give me a vision. Oh, God, the pastures, green and lush, the white fences, entryways with swing gates and gorgeous barn and tongue and groove and the smell of saddles and just first class and gorgeous and an incredible arena with world-class riders who are serious, Rolex, badminton, Olympics. That's what I see, not just some spawned out old barn. I mean a real thing. And this is 6 years ago when we were married. We talked about this. Do you realize that when you see something so clear, you have set the wheels of providence in motion? The wheels are in motion because that vision goes through everything you do. Providence is in motion. You're seeking in your sleep when you can see something so clear. Go ahead. And that's the opening ceremonies of Trilogy Farm. November of last year, cutting the ribbon to her barn. I had a banner made for this barn. It's about 14 feet long and about 3 feet wide that says, she didn't know it. I just brought it for the first night, put it on the wall of this big, huge party that we had. And it said Trilogy Farm. Visualized 1978. Established 2003. And then a Ruskin quote, dream lofty dreams, and as ye dream, you shall become. Your vision shall at last unveil itself. John Ruskin. Vision. What do you see? What do you see? Go ahead. Do you see pillars like that? And Trilogy Farm and horses and gates like that? Do you see stalls with the tongue and groove and everything just in place? The white fences, the setting, the pastures, the surrounding by mountains. I mean, is that what you see? What do you see? What do you see? That's why you came here. I know what I see. I'm asking you, what do you see? What drives you so hard that you can hardly sleep at night? What do you see? I love that Ruskin quote. Well, one of the things I've always seen is a home for my family in an incredible place. And when I saw this lot about, 2.5 years ago now, the final stop started to form itself. I mean, I could see that I've bought a lot of houses, as some of you know. I've certainly lived in a lot of places. In college, I lived in my trunk about half the time because, it's between closings, But when I saw this lot, Sean and I went out and what we could see there started to unfold. And so then you take it specific to say, okay, what is that specific vision? I got to visualize. I got to see the end. I've got to see the end before I can even start. So you hire an architect, you draw up an incredible set of plans. Well, that wasn't good enough for me. I wanted a model made. I want to see the end. I want to see it. And that model sits in my office. And every day during this unbelievable project, I wish I could just add water to it and it goes poof. But it's not that easy. But every day it motivates me to pursue the vision. And, we're in progress. Visions take time. And there I am looking down at the dirt going, oh my God, what have I done to my life? But it progresses. And this is, 3 weeks ago on this project. We have been under construction for a year. We've poured just about 600 yards of concrete. We'll pour another 70 yards tomorrow. Unbelievable effort to create a vision. Right? Not the first house I built, hopefully the last house I'll build. So we've talked about this whole idea of visualization, of painting a picture that you believe in, that is so clear to you, that you see it, you smell it, you breathe it. It's so crisp in your mind. And yet, there's one more step, one more part of the equation. This idea, now this is a Pinioism, write this down. It might be my only famous quote, but I believe that you need to say you're there before you're there in order to get there. Now, I don't recommend doing this to any other person. What I'm talking about is talking to yourself, but saying it out loud. This is the declaration. This is the sealing of the deal. You visualize this, you see it, and this is your signature on the contract that you are literally going to say you're there, but you're really not there yet. But it's important to say you're there before you're there in order to get there. Many times in the quietness of my own office, I will look at this model of this home that we are building, this impossible dream that is under construction right now. And I will say to myself, I love living in this house. I've got a beautiful home on the waterfront. Just love living in it. It's got a real low maintenance yard. I love working in the yard. I haven't got a house yet. It's under construction. The jury's still out, to be honest with you. But this is my contract. This is my contract with myself that I have now declared it. And once you've visualized it, and once you've declared it, providence happens. The wheels of providence go into motion. And things start to happen in your sleep that would not normally have happened to get you from point A to point B. But unless you see it, unless you declare it to yourself, some would call this belief, it won't happen. The second thing that I want to chat about is success takes time. We live in an age also of instant gratification. We want it now. We don't want to wait. We want it now. And, I even saw an ad once. You've heard the saying that your job is your credit. I saw one that said your heartbeat is your credit. And I thought, that's just doing damage to people. Because they can show up and they go, oh, you qualify. Here, let's give you that 10.5%, 4 points to set it up loan, and we'll have you that thing today. Right? Success takes time. And so successful people have a builder's mentality. They don't mind starting from scratch with this vision that they have, and they start working hard, day in and day out, and day in and day out. They don't expect overnight results. Reach Returns, we're at this a year now. Is that right? It's a year. On a scale of $1 to $5, how much do you think I've taken out of Reach Returns? That's the range. -5. -5. You're right. It is in the negative. That's okay. It's all right. I'm a builder. Lumber's barely showing up. Just like that house. I would like to see people be more patient. I see it all the time where people get about an ounce of education and they expect immediate results. They've got about 5 minutes a day and they expect to be a millionaire in 2 weeks. And you think, God, that didn't happen that way for me. It was years and years and years of hard, steady climbing. Being a climber, I think in terms of climbing around a lot of things. And climbing, your preparation before you even head towards the mountain is huge. If you show up unprepared, not physically fit, you should just not even be there. You become dangerous to yourself and your climbing partners. And you start, just like in anything, with the visualization. Real frustrating when you show up and you look up and you go, well, there it is. That's what I'm here for. But realizing that to climb big mountains, you might spend 2 weeks on the hill just getting climatized. Very frustrating if you're impatient. Especially when you go from 17,000 to 20,000 feet, back down to 17, up to 20, back to 17, and you do it 6 times just to get your acclimatation going. Very frustrating. You just want to get up there. But you learn. You won't do it. Do you realize if you were dropped on Mount Everest, if they took you in a helicopter and were able to fly you to the top and dropped you on Mount Everest, you'd be dead in a minute? You'd be dead in a minute. Boom. You'd implode. Right? Your body couldn't handle it. You need to transition slowly. And success is that way. We build slowly. Everything I've ever taught in our real estate seminars, tell me if I'm wrong, isn't about instant success. It's about building solid foundational principles and just building relationships over time that produce long-term results. If I get the get-rich-quick guy that says, here's how you make $1 million in a week, I'm not interested. Because I'll guarantee you in 3 years from now he won't be around. Home run hitters are like that. I want the guy that just pounds them right down the gap consistently. That's what I want. Okay? That's what we're teaching. Here's a huge one. This will hurt some of you. I've got to tell you, it's going to sting a little. You ready? Okay? Life happens when we live outside our comfort zone. Conversely, life does not happen living inside your comfort zone. Now, I can already see some people blush. They're going, oh crap, he's talking to me right now. I don't like going outside my comfort zone. That's why they call it comfort zone. I like to be in the comfort. Even the frickin' thing on the wall says comfort zone. Live here. It's a good thing. You don't turn your thermostat up to 90, do you? No, comfort zone. That's what it's for. Right? Right? But I'm here to tell you that life does not happen in your comfort zone. We don't grow in our comfort zone. We don't get stretched in our comfort zone. We don't learn in our comfort zone. We certainly don't make mistakes in our comfort zone, and mistakes often become your greatest asset. Okay, so here's what happens. Picture this circle, this comfort zone. And we try to get brave, and we walk towards the outer circle, and it's like a pinball machine. It's a force field. It throws us backwards into the middle. We can't help it. We try, boom, right back to the middle. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to make a list of everything that freaks you out. And then I want you to walk to the edge of that circle, realizing that here's the boundary. It's happening. I can feel the force field. You're right there. And then I want you to make a deliberate act of your will. Leave your emotions out of the equation. Make a mental decision to step over the comfort zone. A wonderful quote. I wish I knew who said it. I think it's one of those anonymous. That courage is not the lack of fear. It's action in spite of fear. And what I'm asking you to do is be courageous. Step over that comfort zone. A deliberate act of your will to move in the direction of your vision. Let me ask you this. Is your vision where you are right now? Well, then you've arrived. You're done. You can leave now. But if it's not, you will be faced with that crossroads, that decision, and you'll have to step over that comfort zone at some point, or you will not reach your vision. Now, comfort zones are a relative thing. To some of you, to walk up to somebody in this room that you don't know right now and say, "Hi, my name is Greg," gauge 10. It's just shaking. It's like, it would freak you out, right? To others, they could chassé through the aisles at Safeco Field naked selling Amway, and it wouldn't change their life. The gauge wouldn't even move. Right? No big deal. And yet, you know what makes them nervous? You know what their comfort zone isn't? Being alone with themselves. You see, so everybody has a place that they're afraid of. What's your fearful place? Be honest with yourself and deliberately go there. Successful people have identified what scares them and they walk to the guns. They just go in the direction of the fire. We have a real intensive intake in our Power Players group. Some are going, no, shit, he's got an intensive intake. Yeah. And we do so for a reason. For me to help, coach, give you any insight whatsoever, I need to know who you are. I need to know all about you. I need to know what your dreams are, your goals are. I need to know a lot. 15 pages of a lot. A lot of questions people have never thought of. And one of those questions is just what scares the hell out of you? What is it? What's that thing? And one of our Power Players, where is she? I'm looking. She knows that I'm looking for her too. There she is. One of our Power Players said the thing that just freaks me out is flying. Freaks me out. And so I called a little impromptu meeting, said, meet me at my office. We've got some business to discuss. She came up there and I said, okay. So you might want to take a pee before we do the business. I think she knew then what we were about. And she says, are we going flying? I said, no, we're not. You are. She took a pee. Was in there for a while, came out looking a little white, went out to the airplane, and I put her in the left seat, in the pilot seat. I got in the right seat. A few ground rules. First of all, I know this scares the hell out of you. Okay? Second of all, if you pass out, I'll land the plane. So you won't die. The worst case scenario is you'll pass out. I'll do the radios because I don't have time to teach you to talk to the people. You're going, thank God you did that. Right? But other than that, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything. I'm just going to tell you what to do. Put your feet on the brakes. Great. Hit that button. Strobe light. Good. Good. Look left. Look right. Looks good. Okay. Take the key. Grab one hand here. Turn the key. Pull. Good. Now push that in till that says 10. Wonderful. This, that, the other thing. Okay. Point it this way. You steer it like a tractor. Take your hands off the wheels. Let's go out that way. Okay. Run up. Here's what a run up is. Do this, do that, do this, do that. Looks good. Everything looks good. Do this, do that. Great. Ready? White as a sheet. I said, you want to take a couple deep breaths? Lean back. Uh-huh. Okay. I said, okay, you good? Okay, I'm good. I said, great. We'll go out here. Payne Tower, Skyline 182 Foxtrot November, Alpha 4, request takeoff. 16, right turnout. Payne Tower, 182 Foxtrot November, clear 16 right, right turnout approved. Payne Tower, 182 Foxtrot November, on the roll. Go. That's you. Go. Go ahead. Out. Turn on the runway. I go, okay. Take this hand, push that all the way in. When that says 65, pull back very slowly. Down the runway we go. Looking right at this thing. I'm looking at her. She's about as white as your thing. Okay, we're at 65. Pull back slowly. Just slow. Nothing drastic. Here we go. I said, guess what? You're flying. I didn't touch anything. Flew all around downtown Seattle, flew all around everywhere. Tell me if I'm wrong. The more we were in the air, the more comfortable you felt. Now she wants a plane. You have one for sale? Came back into the pattern. Okay, pull this back, drop 10% flaps, good, trim the plane. 20% flaps, good. Come in. I said, the only place I'm going to touch the plane is when we're about this high off the ground. A little back, a little front. And I said, okay, finally, my plane. Pull it, land it, great. Taxi us back, shut it down. I said, okay. I need a page report on that on my desk. What is it that scares the hell out of you? To some of you, it's being poor. To some of you, it's not having a retirement. To some of you, it is not feeling like your life mattered at the end of the day. Do you remember principle 1 that started this evening? You're responsible for your own life. And I am just giving you a hint. That's my job, to tell you that there is no life inside your comfort zone. None. Zero. Boring. Okay? I hope you got that one. I really hope that mattered to you. If you think about it, you know that I'm right on this. Ask yourself the last time you experienced extraordinary life living in your sameness. You know I'm right, and yet what keeps us from untying the boat that is tied up to the dock? What keeps us from untying it? You see, a boat wasn't designed to be tied up to the dock, and yet some of us live never untying our boat from the dock. We sit there in the boat, tied up to the dock, and what? Call ourselves sailors? No. Our life is meant to go out of the harbor and get out there where the real sea is. And yet, you know and I know that very few people cut the ropes and get out of the harbor and let their boat live where a boat needs to live, which is on the open sea. It's risky out there. It's a little dangerous at times. Without question, days are unsure at sea. Sometimes you can't even see the land. But that's why you have a boat. Who needs a boat if you're tied up to a dock? We're meant to be away from the dock and out on the sea of life. And that is where life happens. Reach Returns' at seminars, we have defined failure in a different way. Failure is simply not trying. You get these little pins, and it says failure is not trying. There's one right there. Failure is not trying. I want you to try to get to that edge of your comfort zone, and I want you to will to step over. You won't die. And you'll see that life is on the other side. One of the things that keeps us from taking that step, oftentimes, the next topic we're going to talk about is how do we talk to ourselves? This is huge. This is huge. Now, right now, I guarantee you, right now, that voice in your head is going overdrive. You've already, if my fly were down, you'd have noticed it and you'd have said something in your head. You wouldn't have said anything to me, but you would have said something in your head. That's what it would have said, you know, right? We talk to ourselves 24/7. 24/7. We sleep with ourselves talking to ourselves. I want you to become aware of that voice in your head. Most people don't notice it. It's kind of like background radio. You just don't even really hear it. I want you to start listening to it. And then I want you to start evaluating whether what it's saying is true or not true. It'll be shocking to you. Because sometimes the reason we can't get out there is we defeat ourselves before we ever try. That voice says, who are you kidding? Get real. You want to buy a house? How about buying lunch? That's what it says. That's what it says to us. You want to be a millionaire? How about paying your light bill? Let's start with that, you idiot. That's what that voice says. That's what that voice says. Rarely are we programmed with a voice that says what we want it to say? We have to reprogram it. We have to start walking the dog instead of letting the dog walk us. And it starts with awareness of the voice. What is that voice saying to you? And I just want you to start thinking about it. Every time you hear yourself talking, listen to it and go, do I agree with that? Or don't I? Is that a positive influence in my life, moving me in positive directions? Or is it the Antichrist telling me that I can't do anything? That's what's going on. I want to give you an example. I had I guess I was a part of it. Shauna had a clinic at Trilogy Farm 2 weeks ago. The best rider in the country was giving the clinic. World Grand Prix champion, right? I thought Grand Prix was a Pontiac, but evidently that's really something in the horse world, right? Okay? And she's there, and here you've got 100 women coming from all over the place with their horses to have 45 minutes on a horse with this lady telling them what they're doing right and wrong and coaching them. She stands in the middle of the arena with one of these on with a surround sound system, and they ride dressage around the arena, and she says, give it more leg, give it more hip, do it. I don't know anything about it. But so I'm listening just cursory, right? But here's what I heard. She tells this lady to do something. The lady evidently tries, and then the lady exclaims on the horse, dang it! I knew I was going to do that! Do you know what the instructor said very calmly in her German accent? Exactly. Und that is why it happened. I knew I was going to do that. And is there any wonder why it happened? Because you told yourself, this is what's going to happen. It's going to happen. Whether you say you can or whether you say you can't, both are true. I'm going to give you the opposite story. The opposite story is a story about my friend Jimmy Phillips. We're in a golf match. A couple good golfers right here. And, you know, we get very serious about our golf matches, especially against these guys. We do not lose against these guys, right? So we've got them, you know, pants around their ankles, bad, coming into 18. They owe us about $300 each coming into 18, which is for us, that's a big golf game. And what do? They press us. Well, that's like double or nothing coming to 18. And if you're down, you have the right to press. That's the rules of golf. So they press us. So it's like, okay, showtime, right? Jimmy pounds one. It's a par 5, okay? Jimmy pounds one right down the middle. Beautiful drive. Well, you know, these guys fold like a cheap suit, right? One is off into the trees, and the other's dribbled one down, and we're like, okay, we're all right. Well, I hit one, make good contact, but it sprays a little bit right. And so my next play is really, I've just got to bring it back in the fairway over some trees. There's no way I can advance down the hole very much. I just kind of have to get it back over the trees, which I do, and I put it back in the fairway, okay? Jimmy hits a perfect second shot. We're still in control. They're over, you know, in the woods, right? But they recover well, so we're not taking anything for granted. We're very focused. We're on task. Okay, now it comes to my third shot. Well, on a par 5, your third shot needs to be on the green. That's kind of how it's designed, right? Well, this par 5, we've got about a 20-mile-an-hour wind in our face, and you shoot over a lake. And the green is right on the edge of the lake. And the pin was right in front. So it's like... So anyway, you know, I mean, this we call this the sphincter pucker. You know, you kind of go... Anyway, Jimmy goes out there and reads the sprinkler head, and this is exactly what happened. You know, a sprinkler head has the measurement, how far away you are. reads the sprinkler head, and he kind of starts giggling like this. He kind of starts laughing. He kind of goes, and he goes, oh, those guys are so hurting. And he walks right out of my bag, and he goes, wouldn't you know it? He says, Pinio, this is exactly your 5-wood distance, which happens to be your favorite club in the bag. They are so hurting. Oh, my God, wouldn't you know it? He says, just put the old 5-wood on it, buddy. They don't even know what's going to hit them. And you know what I thought? I'm 205 yards out into the wind over water. My little voice is going, holy shit, holy shit. Should I lay up, you know? But he was the voice that I want for myself. He's the voice I want for you. And it was his voice that made me say, yeah, this is my favorite club. And those guys are hurting because I hit this club better than any club in my bag. And then he says to me, I'm just setting up, and he says, Pinio, he says, if anybody can make this shot in golf, you can. Just put the hurt to them right now. And I just found this incredible calm come over me, and I just took it back, and I ripped it. I mean, on a rope, and that thing went up like this, and it came down like a butterfly with sore feet right next to the pin. And you know, I went back to the cart, and my philosophical head was turning. Imagine if I could consistently train my own voice to sound like my most encouraging friend's voice in that moment. How do you talk to yourself? Successful people are aware of their own voice. They've trained the dog. They walk the dog doesn't walk them. Okay? Huge. Absolutely huge. I have another question for you. Who is the bouncer at your door? Here's what I mean. We have all this stimulus coming at us. All this stuff coming our way. Stuff that goes in every orifice of our body, right? In our ears, in our mouth, up our nose, everything, right? Who's guarding the door? Who's guarding the door? Point one, who's responsible for your life? You are. Okay? I need to give my bouncer a raise. I need to tell him to lift weights because you know what? There's a lot of stuff that comes at us that I really shouldn't be letting in. Successful people choose what come their way. They don't just let anything come their way. And I mean right down to when they walk in a restaurant, they don't aimlessly walk like a sheep with this little 18-year-old hostess, and she says, sit right here by the bus table, and like so many sheep, so many people just sit down and go, bah, you have any hay, bah, They don't do that. They go, no, actually, this seat doesn't work for me. This isn't what I'm signing up for tonight. But that seat over by the window, that would work just fine. You'll also find that when you're out with very successful people, they rarely read the menu. They just show up and say, this is what I want. Isn't it the question of the ages? What do I want? They just say, it's what I want. And surely, if you're a seafood place, you probably have a good piece of seafood and this kind of preparation. That's what I want. Now that sounds a little cocky, doesn't it? But think about it from a philosophical standpoint and answer some hard questions. Do you have relationships in your life that are negative and draining? Lecherous people that you need to shake off with a dull knife? Right? You are choosing that in your life. That's your choice. Or it could be your choice to be around positive people who are influential and going someplace. If you hang around a garbage dump your whole life, you're going to start smelling like garbage. That's the moral of the story. And we need to be very, very careful that we choose. Now, I'm like, Felix Unger in this department. I don't go anywhere I don't want to go. I don't find myself in any space that I don't want to be in. The settings that I work in, the settings that I live in, they're choice items. I want you to be aware that everything that comes your way, you're choosing. And if it's coming your way and you don't like it, tell that bouncer to get off his ass and get to work. That bouncer's you, by the way. And say, no, I don't want this in my life. I want different things in my life. We only have so much capacity. Right? Our brain, our ability to take things in is only so much. And if you fill it up with a bunch of junk, there's a lot of good stuff that doesn't have room. It's like a hard drive. A lot of us need to hit the delete button in a lot of ways and just say, no, not for me. No, actually, I don't enjoy that. No, that's not what I want to be a part of. This is what I want to be a part of. Okay? Think in those terms. Successful people ask questions and listen. They listen more than they talk. This is what the part always feels weird about giving a speech, because here I'm up talking all night. But they do. And you'll find that they minimize their title, whereas insecure people maximize their title. Really funny that way. If you've ever been around somebody who just does nothing but ask you questions in a very polite, normal way, not like they're just firing one after the other, but they're just very interested. They're asking. Guess what? There's a deep well of success there. I'll almost bet money on it. Versus the guy that shows up and all he does is tell you about everything he's done in the last 2 years, especially that all the money he's made. Guess what? He's late on his bills. I'll almost bet on it. It's really funny. It's just, how many people realize that that's true? Okay? I like the guy that, that you meet and, what do you do for a living? In construction. When I met Martin Selig, that's what he told me. He's in the construction business. It'd be like Sam Walton saying, well, I kind of do some retail work. Think about that. Think about the reality that the best negotiating tool is asking questions and listening. Our power players had a little exercise the last time we were together. All the answers were there for them. And of course, as they ask questions and collect answers, this helps them structure a deal correctly, right? So we're doing a role play, and I'm the seller, and I've got the answers. They're written down. I'm not making it up as I go. Here's the answers to every question you might ask. And if you do ask these questions, they will become an element that you will plug into your offer to me. But if you don't ask the right questions or enough questions, your offer will not be what it could have been had you understood my whole situation as a seller. Correct? Okay. And so when I meet a seller, real estate segue, by the way, I'm going to be in the seller's presence. I'm going to be in their own residence. Why? Questions are answered without any words oftentimes, aren't they? Okay? So I've got the answer to 100 questions before anybody opens their mouth because I'm in their place. Conversely, I never meet a seller in my place. I'm going to meet them where I can learn about them. And then I start asking questions and probing. And what I'm doing here is I'm collecting puzzle pieces. My puzzle starts face down. All the pieces are face down. But as I talk and as I ask questions and as I inquire, I go, oh, and I flip it up. Oh, it's a face. Isn't that nice? And then I ask a couple more questions and, oh, it's an ear. Oh, that probably goes with the face. You know? And I ask more questions and I'm flipping these puzzle pieces up. And all of a sudden, the puzzle gets fairly easy to solve when you can see what's on the face of it, right? And then you simply put it together, structure your offer, because now you're educated. I'll give you an example. Some of you have heard this in a seminar, but it's a perfect example. I wanted to buy this guy's place. He wanted to sell. He wants all cash. Okay? Oh, you want all cash? Question, of course. Why do you need all cash? Let's talk about that. Well, there's just some things I want to do with that cash. Question, like what? You know, and some people will go, you know, none of your business. But that doesn't bother me. I've been told that before. Okay? But he didn't. He said, well, you know, actually what I want to do is, you know, I really want to get a different vehicle. You know, I need a different vehicle. Not a new one, but I definitely need a new vehicle. Oh, what kind of vehicle? Well, I was thinking like an SUV type vehicle because we go up skiing and this and that. And, you know, oh, what kind of SUV? Wow. Well, I was thinking about those Toyota 4Runner type things. Really? Good. What color? What color? Yeah, what color? Oh, I don't know. Something simple, you know, like white or black. I don't really know. Great. No, not new, but, you know, nice condition. I said, great. And what do you need the rest of the money for? Well, I was just going to, you know, put it in savings, you know, just to kind of have a little cushion, have a little interest income. Oh, great. So I happen to have a white Toyota 4Runner. Really nice, one owner, 25,000 miles. Perfect condition. I'm kind of anal that way. And how about I give that to you as a down payment? And then rather than put your money in the bank at 3%, how about if I pay you on the balance at 6%? There's your interest income. There's your 4Runner. How does that work? Okay. I'd like to see the car. Oh, of course. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Deal's done. You don't get that deal without asking questions. The best negotiating tool that has ever been and ever will be is asking questions and shut up and listen. And then ask more questions and shut up and listen. Okay? Key point. Key point. Along that same lines, and this is back to our little voice, assume nothing. Okay? A famous Pineo quote, if I have one, is this. It's simply that the answer to every question you don't ask is no. That's the answer to every question you don't ask. I ask every question and I assume nothing. I'm not smart enough to think I know the answers, and yet who gets in the way of this all the time? Isn't it that little voice? Where you start to think something and that little voice goes, oh, cut it out. Cut it out. They would never do that. They would never do that. Every time you hear your voice say that, just give them a sucker punch and go, back of the car. I'm going to ask. And you will be shocked. Here's another to-do list. I want you to have a clear picture of what you want, and then I want you to go out there and I want you to develop 100 questions of proposition around what you want. Now, a question of proposition can be asked. It's asked to be answered yes or no. So a question of proposition is, would you give me the watch off your wrist? Please.
No.
No. No is the answer. Question asked, question answered. No. That's a question of proposition. Question of proposition isn't a bigger picture question. I got an email once, somebody very excited that they had a whole bunch of questions of proposition lined up, but none of them were questions of proposition. Like, how do you feel about that watch? No. You see, it's yes or no is a question of proposition. If you ask 100 questions of proposition, I guarantee you in there will be 3 yeses. At least. We disqualify the possibility all the time before the possibility disqualifies itself. I don't do that. I have learned to not assume that I know the right answer. I simply ask the question. I ask it with enthusiasm. I do my very best to put that out there. And if the answer is no, I've been told no before. Matter of fact, on a daily basis, many, many, many times. That rejection gauge is busted. That gauge in the plane, it's been laying on the left side for years. Doesn't faze me. Used to faze me a lot. But I took a step over the threshold and said, you know what? Nobody's killed me yet. A couple have tried. But I ran. I love that line in True Lies. Have you killed anybody? Yes, but they were all bad. Heard that? This is a great line. Yeah. Questions of proposition. Huge. And do not assume that we know the right answer. Knowledge. Successful people know their sport in and out, left and right. They have made it their study of life. I have been at this 30 years, and I went to a seminar 3 weeks ago for 4 days to learn. I'm always learning. I'm always asking questions. I'm always reading. I talked to a guy today, no kidding, go to a website. I talked to a guy today, called on a bird letter. This guy called to tell me, hey, I know that what you're doing is a great job, and by the way, I wrote a book. You did? Yeah, 38 years in apartment real estate. You did? You've been at it 38 years? Yeah. How do I get your book? Here's the website. Gave me the book, gave me his phone number. You think I'm buying that book? Of course I'm buying that book. I don't care if the book costs $1,000. If I learn one thing, this is a huge money sport we're in. We're not dealing in widgets. We're dealing in hundreds of thousands of dollars with everything we're dealing with in the real estate world. What's one idea worth? I buy a $1.6 million building. What's a 1% mistake cost me? If I'm 99% there, if I got 99% but I make 1% mistake, isn't that $16,000? Consider the price of ignorance, if you will. Much more expensive than the price of education. Much, much more. And you people are a testimony to that reality. How many have come to a seminar that we've given? How many? You know what? Do you realize that 5% of the people after college spend $1 on their education? Oh, yeah. Go figure. Like we know it all when we're 22? Amy, do you know it all? Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm glad that they have taught you well. I didn't know shit when I graduated from the University of Washington. Yeah, it was higher education, all right. My bunk bed was the higher education. I am amazed by that statistic, but you're to be applauded because you realize that there is no success without knowledge and fluency in your sport, period. I don't care. Do you think Bill Gates knows something about computers? Yeah, I think so. I think he's kind of got it down, right? You think Sam Walton understands the retail business? Yeah, got it down. Highly successful people have forgotten more than most people know about their sport. Okay? And it doesn't come osmosisly at night listening to ocean tapes. You have to study. You have to read. You have to ask questions. Constantly. I'm on the phone with somebody every day that knows more than I do asking questions. That's what I do. You need to do that too. Okay? Fluency. Huge. Absolutely huge. Have you ever seen an electrician? He wears this huge belt, right? Some of you have heard this metaphor. And you think, from a distance, you think, my God, man, how many screwdrivers does one man need? Because there's like handles everywhere, and there are just tons of them. You think, geez, what are you afraid you're going to lose 12? You know? Right? But under close inspection, each one is slightly different. The tip is slightly different. They've got a little bend, a little ratchet, a little whoop-a-doo. You know? That's whoop-a-doo. That's a technical term. The tools of acquisition and finance are like that too. There's all different slots. Cherie Cooley from Portland, national speaker. Raise your hand. Right here. We met her in Michigan, Detroit, wherever the hell we were. Right? Okay. Cherie has forgotten more than anybody I know about lease options. That's one screwdriver in the belt. Right? You see how powerful? She buys 50 homes a year with one screwdriver. One. I mean, that's the tool. She understands that tool. But knowledge in the sport means that the more tools you understand and how to use fluently, the more able you are. But again, the ocean tapes at night, they don't do it. I've tried. Okay? It's study, it's hard work. Very, very important. I had a mentor. I talked to him yesterday. In his prime, he had about 3,800 units. Okay? And in the mid-60s, early into the 70s, he really got into HUD housing, just when HUD housing was just making all sorts of things available in large apartment complexes in Seattle. Okay? Problem is that HUD was just starting these programs, and HUD didn't know what HUD was doing. And so, just like a federal program, they compensate for the lack of really knowing what they're doing with more forms and more paperwork and more bureaucracy, right? And consequently, people just couldn't get through the system. It was so bureaucratically thick, they couldn't find their way through to actually close a deal. But A.B. sat down with his staff. He said, gather together, crew. He says, this HUD game, we're going to know it better than HUD does. We're going to know their documents in and out, left and right. We're going to memorize them. We're going to have this system so down that pretty soon HUD will be calling us asking how their system works. And because it's so difficult, 99% of the people will fall out. And we'll be the last one standing, and it'll be like taking candy from a baby. Guess what happened? 3,800 units later, he's the last one standing. And he actually was flown to Washington, D.C. to have HUD ask him questions on how their system worked. Because he knew it better than they did. Fluency, knowledge, education. Commit yourself. Commit yourself. We are so lazy, me included. You know? Forget that. Turn off the stupid tube and start reading. Getting educated. It will get you there. It will pay off. When is the last time I Love Raymond paid off for you? Think about it. Okay, give me the reason. No, okay?
This is the end of Disc 1. Deliberate Success with Greg Pineo continues on Disc 2.